Welcome to Live, Let, Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Micah and Steve.
Hello, hello, hello.
And welcome back to another exciting episode
Of Live.
Let Thrive.
What is up, Micah man?
I'm chilling, Stevie Stacks. How you doing?
Doing good. This is episode 125 of your favorite Airbnb, share economy, VRBO, all that fun stuff podcast. And we're getting you through this tough time right now. And hopefully we're providing some good content for y'all. And we're going to do it again. We have a special guest, the mighty SDG, Sarah Doan Glidewell. And real quick backstory on Sarah, if I don't mess this up. She is 25 years old and moved to Texas 4 years ago. And her husband travel a lot, about a minimum of 2 weekends a month. And so they started renting out their apartment on the weekends when they traveled. They saw how easy it was and how much money they were making from just 2 weekends a month. So they decided in November to rent another unit in the same complex and start renting it out full time. After 3 months of success, she was ready to move and scale up. She's ready to scale up and open 3 more in 3 weeks. Holy crap. Opening up 3 Airbnbs in 3 weeks was a huge push, and she was so excited with all their efforts bringing in profit. Then the weekend they opened them up to stayers. That's a word. She used that word, not me. Corona really hit hard, and everything went silent. A lot of y'all can relate to that. It's been a ton of pivoting and experimenting, but they have managed to make rent for both March and April. And here she is in the flesh, Sarah Doan Glidewell. What's up, Sarah?
Hey, guys.
Hope I didn't mess that up too bad.
No, you did well.
I did
Good.
Glidewell well.
Yep, that's spot on.
Spot on. There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, we met Sarah because she actually hit us up. She actually tagged us in a IG video, IG story. So
I
shout out to
did.
her for not only promoting us but tagging us. And see, now she's on the show.
Yeah, you guys were a big influence when I first started thinking about getting into it, just because I had absolutely no experience other than like renting them out on the weekends. So I was like, if we're gonna experiment some more, I need some more input. And your podcast was the first one that popped up. So we were like, all right, we're gonna listen to every single one of these until we've got a grip.
Ooh.
Dreams really do come true, Sarah.
So let's hop to it. So how many Airbnbs do you have managed? Do you arbitrage buy? What's your story?
So right now we have 4 units. We have 1 in Fort Worth in the same complex that I live in, and then we have 3 in Dallas. All of them are arbitrage. All of them I'm just renting, but I have a management company. That was a requirement for us to scale up because I didn't want to quit my full-time job for it, because I love my full-time job. So it had to be something that could be automated really quickly. But yeah, like I had mentioned, we opened up 3 right in 3 weeks. I was like, had such a fantastic experience opening up the first one here in Fort Worth. In the first 3 months, we immediately, were making profit and had made back everything that we had spent from the get-go. And so I was like, you know what? We spent all of 2019 just stacking capital, and we were going to throw it at something. And so we decided to throw quite a bit of it at Airbnb. And we scaled up really fast with a ton of optimism. And of course, as we all know now, the travel industry came to a screeching halt.
Okay. Before I get to the coronavirus questions and tips and tricks for not only you, our listeners, whatever, for us, what management company are you using?
I use a management company out of DFW called Local Estates, local spelled with a K. They originated out of Oklahoma. And then I think the CEO, Mariah, she decided that Dallas just had a better market for Airbnb. And so she packed up all of her stuff there and moved here and started doing it here. And it's been great.
Wow. So, and you said you're naturally an interior designer. So have you designed for other Airbnbs, or are you just doing them for yourself for now?
Well, currently just for myself. But originally the plan was to scale up my own Airbnbs and just design my own as quickly as possible because we had quite a bit of capital saved up. And I mean, the coronavirus, the timing was impeccable because even though it was kind of crappy that we had opened up 3 and it hit, I mean, if it would have hit a year later, like my plan going in was just like, I was listening to your podcast and I was listening to people who had like done 79 in a year and all these crazy numbers. And I was like, man, I can do that. Like, it's going to be no problem. I'm ambitious. I can figure it out. And so I was just going to start dumping every amount of profit I made into new ones, into new ones, into new ones. And if that would have been the case, like if I would have continued down that path and coronavirus would have happened 2021, I would have had, 20 some properties theoretically and nothing saved up to pay any sort of rent for a month or 2 months or whatever it would have, resulted in, or however long this is going to last. So now we're pivoting. Now we're rethinking our strategy.
I'm happy you brought that up because it is, I now see the importance of having 3 to 6 months reserve, 3 months, I say minimum for Airbnb short-term rentals for, that reserve. So at this point, like what you said, you're pivoting. What are you doing to pivot?
Well, so when it first hit, I still had some in savings that I hadn't spent on the new Airbnbs. So I felt okay. I was like, we can make it 2 months without making any profit at all and be all right. But I was like, this isn't going to be something that's never going to happen again. Like the economy in the course of my lifetime or our lifetimes, it's going to collapse again. And when I went into 2020, mine and my husband's word was failure. We were like, we're going to spend 2020 just eating our shit sandwich. Like we're just going to fail as fast as we possibly can because we just want to get it out of the way. And so for us, even though it was really unfortunate that, it happened when it did, we were just like, you know what? We went into 2020 expecting chaos to happen. And we just, wanted to have that mentality that we could be tenacious and pivot and figure out new ways to go about it. So I was barking down my management company's throat because I was like, we're going to try every single option in the book to try and make something work. And so they started focusing on long-term stayers, which a lot of people did. They started targeting like travel nurses or people who are displaced or, the pretty standard move, I guess, that most people did. And then for my units personally, I started offering like date night packages, like Corona safe date night packages, because all of a sudden, like my husband's birthday's in April, and there were so many people that I knew that were trying to celebrate these really fantastic life events that they no longer could celebrate them. And so I was like, well, maybe I can like put together a package that had like popcorn and I don't know, anything that you'd want at a date night, like a bottle of champagne, and offer it as an add-on and see if that could draw more of our local community in, seeing everyone who's flying in no longer is. So we saw a little bit of traffic from that too.
You're actually making a spot where these Corona babies can be made.
Right. That was the goal.
Let me pivot from that. And real quick, so where are y'all from? You said you came here 4 years ago from.
So I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, cool.
And then when I grew up hating the snow. Like I just did not understand why my parents managed to like spend their entire lives having 7 months of snow every single year. And so when I graduated college, I knew I wanted to be down south. And so I Googled what state paid the most for interior designers, and it was the great state of Texas. So here we are.
Nice. And what another thing that jumped out at me, and so you're saying that y'all decided we're gonna eat the failure shit sandwich, whatever, the first year y'all are doing all this stuff. And what's really cool about that is most spouses on either end, and I just know from my experience with the ladies, and that a lot of them that I've come across, they don't want to take any chances. They want to play it safe, and they get upset if someone has a dream. Hey, I want to try this. I want to try that. Oh no, but this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. We're gonna go bankrupt. We're gonna fail. But you are encouraging that and to take chances. Each of you are encouraging each other to take chances. That's cool. That's like the fertile ground for like success right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Airbnb wasn't the first time we had jumped off a cliff per se with stuff like this. My husband and I both, I think the reason we work so well together is because both of us are extremely entrepreneurial. And so I think in 2017 or 18, my husband and his now business partner were working for an insurance agency out of Dallas, and they had just tossed around, again, jumping off a cliff and starting their own and seeing if they could make it work and be their own boss and have autonomy. And they had talked about it for a year and a half, and we were on a 2-week road trip, and Ethan and Kenny were just tossing it back and forth again. And I finally was like, guys, if you're going to jump off the cliff, jump off the cliff. Like, quit. Like, either quit talking about it or we're calling your boss right now and we're quitting. And we were in California somewhere, and they called their boss that day and quit. And so it was just a period of 2 years of building that up that finally, when I decided I wanted to try and pursue Airbnb, Ethan was like, well, it's your turn.
Shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. I like that because me and my wife are going through that transition. She's actually in the garage setting up her gym because she's about to go full-blown home gym training.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta support. Once you get that support behind each other, you can't fail. So
yeah, it almost gets fun. I mean, the bigger risks, you're like, are we absolutely insane, or is this what just keeps our life interesting? Like, you know, some people are pushing out babies and we're over here pushing out businesses, and just it seems to be what we're more drawn to, I suppose. But we love it.
Businesses that encourage babies to be pushed out. There you go. Another thing. So you lived in a spot in Fort Worth, an apartment complex, and then started renting out part time out of your own apartment complex, and then apartment unit, and then you you rented another one, right?
Yeah.
In order to do Airbnb. So first of all, first question is, did the apartments know, or did you tell them, or do they allow it?
Well, that was that was one of the big learning curves on the first 3 months of just kind of jumping into it, because I just have the worst time trying to play it safe or trying to make sure that I'm doing the legal thing or the right thing. I suppose I'm just like, would rather ask forgiveness than permission. And so I just rented out a second unit, and I mean, I didn't say Airbnb specifically when I rented out the second unit, but I said that we were going to be doing short-term or long-term rentals, because at the time I didn't really know what it was going to blossom into. And so they were like, look, if you're making your rent payments, we don't care. And so I was like, okay, if you say so. And so I signed another residential lease, and this is pre-knowing that corporate leases even were a thing. And so I signed a second lease, and then the management company that allowed me to sign the second lease left. They got pushed out, and they brought in a new management company, and that new management company was not a fan. They were like, what are you doing with this apartment complex? And all of a sudden, or this unit, I was just like, I mean, why are you asking me these questions? Like, is this an issue? And so they were going to kick me out. Like, we had the conversation. I like put all my cards on the table. I was like, look, this is what we're doing. I had no idea. They allowed me to rent this unit out. I'm so sorry, because I just had no idea. And so I had to essentially fill out paperwork to break my lease. And I was going to move it to a different apartment complex in the area, because I could see on Airbnb that there were several other apartment complexes in the area that had 30, 40, 50 units on Airbnb.
Damn.
And so I was like, what am I missing? Like, how am I not figuring it out? And so then I go to break my lease, and I start going to the other apartment complexes, and some of them here allow it, some of them don't. But I was ready to move my unit into a complex that allowed it. And then just as I was about to move, the management company that had just come in got fired. And so they bring in another management company. And I'm like, goodness gracious. Like, I just jumped through hoops to solve this issue. But if I don't have to move all my furniture, and I don't have to change my pictures, and I can keep all my reviews and my status, I just would prefer to do that. And so I went down there, and I had my management company come with me, because they have a little bit more of a reputation, I suppose, than I do on being a reputable company to manage Airbnbs and apartment complexes. And they were all for it. They were like, yeah, we don't care if you continue on. So they canceled my notice to move out, and now we're back in the clear, I guess, for now.
So your other units are, did you tell them it was a corporate lease, or how did you go about it?
So the other units, the management company that I hired, she brought them to me. So she's got connections in Dallas of small apartment complexes that are brand new, that essentially they take a year and a half, 2 years to reach full capacity once they open up, and that's money lost for them. So they come to her, these developers come to her, and they say, hey, we want to give you 20 units, 40 units, whatever it is, and you fill up with your clients. And so the units that I have there are other Airbnb hosts in the same units next to me that also are running theirs.
I'm happy you brought that up. So that is a tip for everyone. If you do see new build apartments, you can easily get units in those. I've done it in Grand Prairie is a good one. Like if they got all the high rises coming, those people, they sit on vacant units. They're losing money when they first open. If you go and tell them, hey, give me 5, they'll more than likely give you 5 units.
Damn.
Right.
Yeah. So another question: do you list on other platforms besides Airbnb?
Yeah. We've started, right when coronavirus happened, that was the first move that myself and the management company made, was we were just like, we're going to flood every single platform that we possibly can be on, because we just want to have as many touch points as we possibly can have. So we're on all the short-term rental ones and a few of the long-term rental ones like Furnish Finders. But I really want to start looking at getting on platforms to rent it out to like photographers or maybe small venues and such, because the design behind all of mine, like the design for me is my favorite part. Like I could do that a million times over and just be happy as a clam for the rest of forever if I just got to do these rapid designs. Mm-hmm. And whenever I'm designing them, it's always because I'm 25 and a female and just want them to be Instagrammable. And so a lot of like places that I see people doing in-home engagement sessions or senior photos, a lot of times they're in like these really cute, quaint boutique style apartments. And that's exactly what I feel like mine look like. So that's going to be something that, once photography starts coming back a little bit, I want to start targeting those people, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Check out our last episode with Ziona McIntyre. She actually talked about Peerspace, so definitely check out Peerspace.
I listened to that podcast today and I wrote it down, so we'll be looking at it.
All right, so I want to jump into the design real quick. So you're interior designer, and so setting up a unit. And what first of all, what kind of units do you look for? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Well, so my experience with Airbnb so far has only been one bed, 1 bath. And that's one of those things that like a lot of times when I have conversations with people, they're like, how do you decide what size unit you want? Because I have a lot of people who are asking me, who are thinking about getting into it themselves. And other than listening to your podcast, I don't really have an idea of which ones I should be targeting. So that's something that's on the horizon of a learning curve for us as well. But so far it's just been 1 bed, 1 bath.
Okay, so and so how much does it take for you to furnish one of those, design and furnished?
So we could do it for $1,000. We could flip it
fully furnished.
Yeah, fully furnished. I'm sure we could throw some really cheap furniture in there. And the management company that I'm working with, when we were designing these units of mine, I'm putting in about $4,000 a piece. But the investors that she has, where she does the design for them, a lot of times they'll give her $1,000, and she's like, all right, you get a bed and a couch and a TV, and that's it. So for me personally, I try and keep it around $3,500, $4,000. And that seems to be what we're comfortable with currently.
And how do you furnish it with cool stuff for that price range?
So I use almost 100% Wayfair and Amazon Home. Mostly because Wayfair, they have really fantastic discounts for designers. So anytime that I put, a quote together, I can send it off to the professional rep that's assigned to me, and he usually sends back a huge discount on it as well. So that's been a huge help for us. And I'm just like, I'm ready to be like Wayfair's PR person. I'm like, can we just photograph all my spaces and I'll rep you guys because I'm so diehard Wayfair. And their customer service is incredible. I just didn't think anyone would compare to Amazon, and they might beat them.
And so what, I mean, do they ask for proof that you're an interior designer? How does that work?
Yeah, they wanted my work email, and my work email is Rogue Architects, so it specified enough for them, I guess, for them to think that, you know.
See, I know the wheels in Micah's head is turning. He's thinking of making an email that has architects in it, and he gets some
right.
get some big fat discounts.
Oh no, yeah. I'm actually putting together design sets on Amazon Home. I'm like, because I got a new unit coming. I'm like, I need to throw something in that. I like that. I need to. I'm looking for one of them pull-out couches. So I'm thinking about doing a Murphy bed, but those things are expensive.
Oh man,
yeah,
dude. I'm like, seriously, $5,000 for a wall on the bed?
That on the wall.
Yeah, tripping, man. But no, I like that. That's a good idea.
All right. So diving more into the design. Okay, we got the furniture. You got the stuff you need. Are you more of like a minimalist designer? How do you set up a place? Just give us like a brief walkthrough.
So, I mean, designing 3 in 3 weeks was really hard because I felt like I used up my creative juices on the first one. And then the next 2, I was like, holy cow, I don't know that I have it in me. But my favorite thing about Airbnb, or one of the best things for me that came with Airbnb, is that I really don't have anyone that I'm specifically designing for, which is the hardest part about being an interior designer, is because you have your personal taste and then you have your client and their taste. And it's always a push and pull of, you know, how do I cater to what they think they want, but then articulate what you know they need. And with Airbnb, without having a specific client and you're really just dealing with the general public or maybe the community that you're in a little bit, you kind of get to go willy-nilly and design it however you want. And that's the most exciting part. Is for me, there's not a whole lot of consistency between my designs. I mean, I suppose a lot of them are maybe a little feminine or youthful, I suppose, but every single one is vastly different. So there's not really like a theme or a common ground on any of them. I just want all of them to be a very different experience.
Interesting. And do you offer your services to other Airbnbers?
So that's been part of the pivot as well. When I realized that I couldn't, do 20 million in a year and just deplete all of my profits and, throw it right back into a new unit, I was like, okay, well, if that's not the case, eventually I still would love this to go somewhere, and I still love that fast-paced design. And if I can't do it for myself, how can I continue doing it? And so I started talking to people about how other people were doing it, or if anyone was doing it. And a lot of the common thread on the podcast that I listened to from you guys is the hardest part to automate is the design portion of it. So the management company that I have, the CEO, she does a lot of the designs for the investors that use her company to manage their properties. And she just charges them some sort of a flat rate. And then obviously the cost of the furniture. And so I started thinking about doing that, and I started reaching out to a few of my friends who I thought might be interested in investing, because I mean, at 25, when you're 25 years old, you don't really think that you can invest. Like, you expect investing to be something that's going to cost, tens of thousands of dollars, and you don't even know where to begin. Like, it's just this foreign thing that you think that you might get to when you're like 50 years old. But in our experience now, we're like, man, anyone with $5,000 could do this and just automate their Airbnb. And if they wanted to throw $5,000 at it, or $7,000 or whatever they had, they could have this thing that was automated. So I started reaching out to people that were my age, and I was like, hey, I know that you've got a little bit of money set aside. I know that you really don't know what to do with it. This might be something you want to look at. In addition to, I want to design it. And so that's kind of the conversations that I've started having over quarantine. So I think we've got some traction on that, and hopefully a few of the conversations are going to go somewhere. But I want to expand it from there. I want the design portion to be hopefully my niche.
I got 5 on it, so there you go.
Yes.
I can throw it at you. I'm right down the road.
So people literally give you pushback on the design they want? Are these Airbnb hosts, or are they just random?
No, just in interior design in general. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you're just like working for anyone who has a home, like say you're doing residential design specifically, you've always got a client and you're trying to make their home beautiful. And at the end of the day, their opinion is what matters. And so you sometimes lose your portion of it or your voice in it because you're always focused on making sure that the client is happy, because at the end of the day, that's top priority. So, when we started interior design school, you go because you think that, the Sims game is fun and you really like designing your bedroom or rearranging it 12 times as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then when you get older, you realize that, it's more so listening skills and being able to help someone navigate their own design as opposed to doing your own.
Okay. Me, I wouldn't care what you designed as long as you did it. If I gave you $5,000, you can hook my spot up because do whatever you want. I don't care what the design is. But yeah, I see what you're saying though. If their personal feelings are in it, because I like that picture behind you. I see it looks like your own apartment's fully decked out. So yeah, I'd let you. If I ever pick up some in DFW, I'll call you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And so when you started to design and you started making your Airbnbs, did you fill them like with a bunch of goodies at first, or is there like you put like a bunch of coffees and snacks and teas and you like started pulling back some? Maybe I don't need to put this because people ain't using it. What did you figure out by doing all of that?
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty much exactly what happened. So when I first opened the full-time one in Fort Worth here in our apartment complex, I was managing it by myself for the first 3 months. So if I would have someone checking out and checking in on the same day, I would have to leave my office, drive to my apartment complex, clean it, get it ready, and then go back to work, which was fine for the first 3 months because I just, had no idea that management companies even existed. But my whole thing was I really wanted mine to be an experience. Like when I get on Airbnb, the first thing I'm always looking for is something that's vastly different from a hotel. Like I want to be staying in a tree house or I don't know, an Airstream or something wild. And so obviously you can't really do that with an apartment complex, but I wanted to make sure that I offered like a personal touch, I suppose. So people who were visiting really got a Fort Worth experience. So we would pick up like craft beer from local breweries, or if it was like Valentine's Day, we'd fill the room with like rose petals and bath bombs and, spoil the guests, which resulted in really fantastic reviews. But I mean, when you start growing and automating, those things kind of get pushed aside.
Oh, that's cool. So what are some of the things you cut? I mean, obviously the rose petals, and do you put a lot of snacks and teas and coffee? What are the things you put and you like no longer do?
Yeah, it was mostly like the novelty items that we quit doing. We still do coffee, we still do tea. We make sure that there's salt and pepper and shampoo, conditioner, a blow dryer, kind of the standard things that you're always going to find in a hotel. But anything that is a specialty item, we've stopped doing, other than if somebody wants that date night package for coronavirus. That's now being offered as well.
Rona date.
And your reviews didn't suffer that much from taking things away?
No, not too much. With the Fort Worth unit, not a whole lot. I mean, we've had really great stayers, and our Fort Worth unit is the one that's had the most traction on long-term stayers too, which was surprising to me. I mean, I guess I should have expected it because we're right next to quite a few hospitals, but yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Cool. And so what is something that, I don't know, maybe like a Sarah touch that sets you apart from other designers or other cool spots? What do you do different than other places?
Well, I think I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. But when I go about designing these apartments, one, it's you've got a small budget, so nothing's going to be super extravagant by any means. But two, you still want it to stand out in the pictures. Like the only way that you're going to stand out from any other Airbnb in the area is if the pictures that you take of your unit jump out at people. And so for me, in the units that I have in Dallas, my big focus was making sure that there was something large on a wall that stood out, that like would jump at you. And so the unit that I have in Bishop Arts, that's been my little, saving grace throughout this coronavirus. I painted like these giant, big black and white stripes on the wall. And then I have like these bright pink velvet chairs. And then I painted all the rest of the walls jet black. And then we have this big gold canopy bed. So in comparison to every other apartment complex where the walls are white, mine are black. And that seems to, I don't know if that's the reason it has a lot of traction or what it is, but that one above all my other units just has the most traffic.
That is a fact. I tell people if you paint your walls outside of white on Airbnb, it stands out automatically.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt to do, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah. So you use professional photos for all your places, all your listings?
Yeah. So when I first got into this, the management company that I hired said that they had a photographer that they have used in the past, but they would have to reach out to him and see if he was still doing it. And I have no idea who that guy was, but I had a friend who is an incredible interiors photographer in Michigan who went to school with me for photography. And so I personally really wanted her to shoot my photos because I just know the obsessive amount of attention to detail she puts into these photos. And so when MJ, the management company, was opening up all these other units besides mine in the same complex, I figured that there was going to be several other units that were going to need to be photographed as well. And so for my friend, who's also young and just starting her photography business, I was like, man, I wonder if I could get my management company to advertise you as opposed to this other guy that they don't seem that loyal to. And my management company went for it. So they flew her down and she got to photograph all of the units, mine included, and that's who did them. So that was a lot of fun to be able to partner with her almost immediately.
Wow, used an artist to make it look beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was already beautiful, but enhanced it. It captured its spirit, its essence.
Right.
And so how are you promoting right now the like, of course, people are worried about how clean these places are because of the coronavirus. How are you putting that front and center? This is what we do. This is how we clean and make sure that, put people at ease.
Yeah. So my management company added, I think, 2 photos to all of our listings where it just lists out their cleaning process and that they're guaranteed to be virus free. So that they put front and center. Like you have the photo that captures people's attention, and then the next photo when you scroll is the photo of the certified cleaning situation. So far we haven't really had anyone that seems scared about it. Like we haven't had any stayers that have stayed in the last 2 months that have even questioned whether it's like been vacant for a long time or anything.
You know what I'm noticing too? I think the people that are traveling right now are the people that just don't give a. I'm serious. Like,
yeah,
they don't like. I've had the same thing. I'm like, man, are these people worried? They come in, chill, roll out. I'm like, dang, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. That's the same thing with my husband and I. We're having a really hard time just staying still. We've done a little bit of traveling through this whole thing too, and so I'm just assuming all the other stayers are just like us.
So y'all have actually traveled during this?
We have. We've gotten a lot of heat for it too, of course. But yeah, we spent 2 weeks in Michigan with my family, which really resulted in us seeing less people than we would if we stayed in Fort Worth, because at my parents' house, they've got deep freezers full of meat and we didn't have to leave it all. But we were in Phoenix this past weekend, visiting some colleagues. And then we also kind of segued into our next Airbnb adventure. We went down to South Texas and we bought a Volkswagen bus.
Whoa.
Yeah, on a whim. Everybody in the rest of the world is saving their pennies when we're out here buying vehicles. But the goal with that, hopefully, is one, we're going to do a lot of traveling in it, I think, this summer because it's super reliable and it's got a new engine in it. So it's theoretically going to be able to drive across the country. But long term with it, we really want to rent out a campground or a campsite at a campground for the entire summer and then set up like a glamping situation.
Awesome.
And then just put a boot on it or something and let people stay in it.
Dope.
That is cool. Yeah, you're going to deck it out big time, I'm sure.
I hope so. We got to get that old smell out of it first, and then we'll be ready for stairs.
Maybe people like that smell. You never know.
Right. It adds to the experience.
with everything going on right now, because I know there's a question that I've been asked, so I want to ask you, do you plan on expanding more into more short-term rentals, or what's your goal after all this?
Yes, definitely. I still want to expand. I still think that there's room for growth even this year. It's just going to be a slower growth. Like for me to save 3 months rent, I mean, if you're looking at rent is about anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 a month, and you're earning that in profit a month, you really only have to slow down maybe 3 months before you open up a new one per property. So I think we're still going to be able to grow, and I don't think it's going to be that much of a setback to have to save up 3 to 6 months rent per unit. But I mean, outside of us opening up our own, I think we just want to start exploring more experience-based ones, because now that I've started looking into like glamping rentals or RV rentals, that seems to be potentially more profitable than short-term apartment rentals. So I don't know.
Unique spaces are the hot spot. That is a fact. That is a fact.
I guess it's a lot of it is so much competition in the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartments people are renting out or houses. It's like it got, well, I don't know about now because Corona is going to eliminate a lot of competition, but yeah, it got saturated for a while. So you see something like a VW bus and you're like, holy crap, that'd be awesome, And so yeah, you find your niche. Real quickly, how much does the management company charge you? How much percent?
So my management company charges 15%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which isn't too bad. And then that doesn't include the cleaning fee, though. The cleaning fee just goes directly to the cleaner. But yeah, so far, I mean, with the amount that the management company does for us, like they run ads for us, which has been amazing through this entire coronavirus thing. They run a bunch of Facebook and YouTube ads and Instagram ads, I guess. And every time they tell us that they're running an ad for us, it's like the next 3 days are just swamped with bookings. And they don't charge us for it. So I just almost feel like my 15% goes directly into advertisement.
How much do they charge just for the advertisement piece?
Right. Like they don't charge me anything extra for the advertisement. So I'm like, wait a minute.
What's
Are you guys making any money?
Local estates, right? Oh yeah,
Yes.
I'm giving them a call.
Yeah, you should. I've been thrilled with them. They've done a great job.
So you pivoted. You found long-term renters, and are these travel nurses, or what kind of, or who are these renters?
Yep, we've had some travel nurses, and then the one that I've got right now, I think from what I can tell, is either doing a residency or is still in school. And the communication's been with this girl's parents, so I think the girl's parents are paying for it. But that's been she's staying for 3 months, and that's been great. That's put at least one of my properties at ease for the time being.
Those are the best tenants, the ones whose parents are paying for everything. I've had a couple of those. I'm like, yeah, there's some good tenants.
Yeah.
So where in Michigan are you from?
Ooh, I'm from, hold on, let's see if I can do it here. All right, I'm from this side. So we've got Detroit over here, and I'm on this side.
Okay, so everybody. I have my buddy. I was in a band, and my guitarist is from Michigan. So yeah, they always do this. They always put their hand up. And,
yeah.
So Detroit, you ever thought about investing in Detroit, buying a house for like $1,000?
Yeah. So the photographer that just took my Airbnb photos, she just bought a house in Detroit, and she bought it on. I think she lives on 11 miles, so it's not. It's not the best neighborhood in the world, but she got it for a killer deal. And she's loving it. We went and visited her when we were up there, and I mean, she just loves the area. Like Detroit's really making a comeback in comparison to what it was a few years ago. So
I have a guy that I mastermind with, man. He is killing it in Detroit. Like people say, stay away from Detroit. He's buying everything on the block, putting it on Airbnb. He's pretty much revamping neighborhoods. I'm like, dang, I should have hopped on that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that place is seeing a lot of growth.
I thought Airbnb had Detroit had an Airbnb ban.
They ain't about to enforce it. They got more important stuff to do.
More important stuff. Solve all the murders or what?
Yeah, man. People steal houses in Detroit. They got other stuff to worry about.
Yeah, they're wild up there.
So Sarah, you never got any grief from the city of Fort Worth, because apparently it's illegal to do it in Fort Worth too.
So yeah, well, originally pre-Airbnb, because my husband and I come up with a new idea that we're going to chase every single day, and some of them stick and most of them don't. But originally, right before we started Airbnb, we were looking at opening up a wedding venue, because that was the original dream, right? Is to just be able to create some space that's absolutely magical and allow people to get married in it. And so we started plugging into Near Southside Inc. because I live on the Near South Side. And just all the conversations that I was having with people, it just seemed like everybody knew someone who was also doing Airbnb. And so when I started looking into it and seeing that Airbnb was banned here, not allowed here, I started asking questions because I was like, wait a minute, all of these people can't also not know that. And so they were saying, at least from what I've heard, is that it's really only banned in 100% residential areas. So if you're in an apartment complex like we are and where we're located, we're so close to downtown that we're just surrounded by restaurants and bars. So it's not considered a completely residential area. So I think per the city code, it's okay. I think. I don't know.
Better ask for forgiveness, right?
I've heard it was I heard it was cool in certain spots because I used to manage one out in Fort Worth, and I heard multifamilies was cool as well. But I've never heard, nobody ever said they got enforced on anything. So Fort Worth, open.
Well, and when I was hunting around for a management company, that was a question that I was asking every single person, and a lot of people. One in particular, I don't even remember who it was at the time, but they said that they managed for a couple of police officers in Fort Worth. And so I was like, well, what do the police officers have to say about it? Like, obviously they know that there's some sort of restrictions on it. And he was like, at least from their perspective, he was like, they have no interest in managing that. Like, they've got bigger fish to fry. And unless you've got a neighbor that's complaining consistently about, massive parties being thrown in the house next to them or excessive noise, then they have no interest in regulating it.
That's true, man. Even like, Arlington banned Airbnb, whatever.
Yeah.
But, even the cops, remember we were in we went to the little hearing down at the city courthouse, and even the cop was in there. He was like, I don't see the big deal. I get more calls from people, long-term renters and homeowners than I do from Airbnb guests. But I was like, and they see it too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a money play.
Yeah. Money play all day, man.
Always is.
So have you had any complaints from neighbors about doing Airbnb?
So far, I haven't had any complaints about neighbors. I've had some annoying guests that have, like, originally when it was kind of a gray area as to whether I was allowed to do it in Fort Worth or not, I had a couple stayers that, like, couldn't figure out the check-in process and went in through the leasing office and talked to the leasing management team, and that always turns into something ridiculous. But other than that, I haven't had any, like, the leasing company downstairs or the management team has just been like, we've had no complaints, so you can keep going. So I guess I've had relatively quiet stayers.
Yeah, my one of mine got shut down because someone went to the leasing office. This is one of my first ones, and she went to pick up a pair of flip-flops. I was like, man, my old unit got shut down for $5, man. Come on. But it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
So you said you still want to actively look for new Airbnbs, and so how has coronavirus changed your plans, if at all? Have they changed it any at all?
I mean, besides slowing down the scaling process, because at first, pre-coronavirus, our goal was to get at least 12 by the end of the year. And that's why we had a big push right in March, because we were like, it's about one a month. That's totally doable, but we're, 3 months behind. So we have to push these 3 out really quickly. And besides scaling back at this point to a slower pace where we actually have 3 to 6 months saved up, it's just going to be now really doubling down and trying to get either people who want to start investing or current hosts to try and start hiring me to design theirs. Which right now, what I was hopeful, or what I was looking forward to doing is, since the management company has other hosts in the same complex as I am that didn't invest hardly any money into designing theirs at all. I wanted to be able to compare the numbers. Like I wanted to look at the profit that they were bringing in, the price point that they were at, the amount of nights that theirs were rented out in comparison to mine, and see what kind of a price point difference it is. If it makes sense for me to continue on spending a whole lot of time doing design, or if I need to scale it up and make them more extravagant for us to see a difference in profit, or, you know, what that looks like. So right now, I mean, other than trying to find people who are my age who want to throw a little bit of money at something that can be automated pretty easily, I want to start getting some numbers together and be able to actually have a pitch that has some bones behind it, I suppose, that is a little more persuasive to people to use my design as opposed to just starting it on their own.
So during this time, are you profitable, breaking even, or are you like losing and trying to figure out another way?
Well, so last month we were on track to break even. And right at the very beginning of coronavirus happening, the management company and the tax guy that I use both sent me the same link to an SBA grant that I could apply for. So I was, super pleased with breaking even, because I was like, you know what? It could be way worse. I could be paying 4 rents and have no profit at all. So I was pleased with breaking even. But then that SBA grant I ended up getting. And I was so excited about it, because that just meant that, like, this month, hypothetically, I mean, we're seeing a ton more traffic in the last 2 weeks than we've seen in the last 8 weeks. But that grant coming through, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to save me next month. So we're making profit still. We're still doing all right.
That's good, because I got the grant today and I was shocked I got it. I was like, oh shit, I didn't think I was gonna get it. So yeah, I got it. So I was like, yeah. So yeah, that is open. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, so you have your business under an LLC, or how does that work?
Yeah. So I started an LLC in January, and that was essentially like I wasn't planning on starting an LLC up until I learned that a corporate lease was a thing. Like, I don't know why people don't talk about that more. I had no idea. But when I realized that a corporate lease was a thing, and I went down because I thought that maybe I could just switch over my lease downstairs in the same complex to a corporate lease. But of course, the first thing that they check is your LLC's credit. I didn't have any of that either. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll start an LLC and just work on getting credit, because eventually I am going to need it. Like, I have no complaints with my management company at all right now, but hypothetically down the road, say something were to happen, right now I'm getting all of my properties through my management company. Like, they're introducing me to these developers and landlords. And so I'm really locked in with her, which, thank goodness, she's awesome. But I mean, eventually I would like to have the autonomy to be able to be in Europe and doing this, or in Australia and doing this, or in a different state and doing this. So we started an LLC just so I could start building up credit now, so that people can't argue with me about it later.
Nice.
Yeah. So just once you file 2 years on it, them credit opportunities just gonna be coming to your door. Just keep it up. Consistency.
Good.
You can also get those credit lines right now, through Home Depot and all that. So yeah, it's coming. As long as I tell people build an LLC, you'll build that credit.
Yep. Yeah, thank goodness. It was a pain in the butt to start, but at least it's over with now.
Yeah, and you got that grant from it too. That's good.
Yeah. I didn't think I would qualify for it, because one of the stipulations was that your LLC had to be started before 2020, and mine was started mid-January of 2020, and I was like, why? So close, and I need this money, but they pushed it through. So I don't know if there was just so many that they couldn't audit them all, or.
That's what I was wondering too, because after I got mine, I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it, but damn, yeah,
right.
Weird. I was like, oh.
Right, like I just assumed mine would look like a completely fake business, because I was like, wow, I invested all this money and I've seen absolutely no profit. Like, they're just going
to make me think, like, yeah, I hope this doesn't come back to bite us in the ass later, but hey, it is what it is.
Right. We'll be thankful for it now.
Yeah. So do you buying real estate? Do you have buying real estate in your plans?
Down the road, yeah. It's just so, with my husband and I both toe the line of just wanting to quit it all and live out of a backpack, and then also want to build empires. There's just like this hippie business balance with the two of us. And so we can't even get ourselves to buy a house for ourselves because we're like, wow, that's really tying us to one place. But with real estate and investing in a house, I think it'll come down the road once we start seeing quite a bit of profit from these units that we're just renting, because I really don't want to throw any of my own capital at it until Airbnb makes me that capital and I can put a down payment on it and I'm not really spending my full-time job money on it. So I think that's down the road, but it's a ways down. It's not in the 2 or 5 year plan.
Okay. Another quick question about getting that grant. Do you also qualify for a loan from the government?
I think I would qualify for a loan from the government, but so far we haven't had to use it, but kind of a funny thing that worked out was when I was opening up the 3 that I started right before coronavirus hit, I opened up a business bank account, and we were talking about how to build credit with the bank specifically, saying I wasn't going to be able to really start getting credit under my LLC with a credit card until maybe a year or so out. I wanted to build credit with that bank because down the road, if I do want real estate, I want the bank to already know that I'm good to go. Like, I'm good for all these payments. And so we did some sort of a loan. I couldn't even tell you what type of loan it was, but essentially I gave them $15,000 of my money, and then they give me a line of $15,000 of credit, and then I just slowly pay it back over time. So instead of just spending my $15,000, I spent theirs, and then slowly I'm paying it back with the money that I handed them to begin with. But that loan didn't come through in time for me when I needed to start buying furniture. One thing after another, they got my name wrong, and I was in the middle of changing my name from getting married, and it just ended up being a whole nightmare. So, I signed these leases, and I didn't want to be wasting money by waiting on the loan to order this furniture. And so I ended up, instead of using the loan from the bank, I ended up using more of my own money to buy the furniture for these 3 units. So then the loan came through. So now I have this $15,000 loan that I haven't touched throughout this entire thing. So it's there if I need it, but right now it's just sitting.
Nice.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, that worked out in my favor. But
yeah.
You're a hustler. I like that. You and your husband are hustlers. I like hustlers.
We're making it up.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah. So we keep telling each other, we're like, oh, it's still floating, so we must be doing something right.
Well, this has been a great interview. Thank you for hopping on with us, Sarah.
Yeah,
and
thank you guys.
Real quickly, why are the Ohio State Buckeyes the greatest team ever?
Oh, don't even start with me. My brother is currently just graduated from U of M, and so we hate Ohio State with a passion.
Oh, I used to like you. I used to like you, Sarah. Oh my God.
I like you, Sarah.
Yeah, no,
you don't like the Buckeyes? I like
blood.
I don't like
Come on, man. How come you don't like the Buckeyes? Come on, man.
They're just always raising hell. I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
Always raising hell.
They raise hell for no reason. They raise hell and then lose. I'm like, I don't get it.
Them and Michigan State, both of them can just hang out in the same corner.
I don't get it.
Oh man. Okay. So real quickly, if you could tell because see, you're relatively, because we interview people that have 100, 200 units all the way down to, the beginners, and you're right in the middle there. And so what would you suggest to our fans or our listeners that what to go out and try this? Why not? Why, like you said, eat that shit sandwich. Hopefully they don't have to eat a shit sandwich. But what would you suggest how could they get started, fairly, risk-free or low risk and just, and get their feet wet and then get into this?
Well, they need to come find me. No, I would say, if I was trying to encourage somebody to also jump off that cliff, it's just one of those things that you just have to do it. My husband, I had talked about it for a couple months, and he was like, you're having paralysis by analysis, and you're thinking about it too much, and if you don't just jump and get into it, you're never actually going to know. You're going to think you might know, but you don't know. So I'd say just jump off the cliff. Like if you want to start chasing something, just do it. Just one step at a time. For us, it was building blocks. Like it's just been, what's a tangible thing that we can do that's going to start earning us money? And it's been one small step after another. And I feel like people my age see people who are way further down the road and they're just like overwhelmed with how much they'd have to do to get there. And, listening to even y'all's podcasts, it's like, I listen to people who are making $1 million a year doing this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a big hill to climb. But I mean, once you start doing it, it's just like all of a sudden you look back and you're 6 months in and you're like, all right, we've made way more progress than I thought we would in 6 months. So my advice is just jump off the cliff. Just do it.
Nice. Make your parachute on the way down, right?
Right.
All right. That's awesome. Where can folks find you?
Well, my website is almost done, but it's not quite done yet. So eventually my website will be on my Instagram. But right now, the main point of contact for me are both in my Instagram accounts. So it's at Glidewell Estates and then at Sarah Doan Glidewell.
DOANE?
Yes, sir.
Glidewell at Glidewell Estates and at Sarah Doan Glidewell. Awesome. Mm-hmm. We will be linking up for sure. Yeah, I need some spots in Fort Worth and Funky Town.
Yeah, the Fort Worth spots have been flourishing, I suppose. There's a little less competition here than there is in Dallas.
Oh yeah, big time.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you for coming on, and thank you for tagging us. And we're going to tag you on our story when we take this episode live. So definitely thank you. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for sharing all the knowledge you've had with our fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
For sure.
All righty. Well, that was a great episode, man, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah,
all right.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Remember to subscribe, leave a like, and also leave us a rating on iTunes.
Hit the subscribe button below.
Peace.
Later.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.